and they know it's a destination. It's not just about books. So Randi's been in business for 35 years. I've been in town for 27 years and go there at least a few times a year. And whenever somebody comes to visit from out of town, it's a destination. So Randi, welcome. I'm so excited to hear your story and how you got started.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
So how did you get started?
Many years ago, my family had a pizza restaurant in New London, and there used to be a bookstore in the New London Mall called Booksmith. Chuck, who now works for me, was the manager there, and he asked me if I wanted to work Christmas mornings to, extra money or whatever. And once I did, I just fell in love with the business. I knew then that this is what I needed to be. So we sort of didn't have a lot of money. The chains were really killing the local businesses.
When you talk about chains, you're talking like Barnes and Noble,
Barnes and Borders.
Borders.
Yep. Okay, this was the Crystal Mall that just opened, and it was absolutely decimating the Booksmith business because they were newer, larger, had more money behind them. So we kind of backed into the used book business. I knew nothing about it. The woman who owned the property before us came into the store, never had been in before, never came in afterward, and she mentioned she had a place to rent, and $250 a month, and a lot of bookcases later, here we are.
So you're talking the first location then, was it on Niantic? Was it on West Main Street?
It was. We started in the basement of the main barn, what we now call the main barn.
Okay.
It was just a basement. It had a plywood ceiling, 4 light bulbs sticking down that you could just take your head right off if you wanted to, cement floor. And as our little logo says on our shirts, we started with a couch and 3 bookcases. Mm-hmm. The key factor was next week we had 4 bookcases and went on and on from there. So many nights I'd leave the Booksmith, get some lumber, stay at the store until 11 o'clock at night building shelves, and then, just doing the same thing again, because we started with no money at all.
Well, it sounds like a real labor of love, too.
Yeah, it has to be. This is more of a lifestyle than it is a job. You cannot think of it as a job. Mm-hmm. Initially I would work 358 out of 365 days a year. But so the one thing I had was I could lift heavy things and I could work a lot of hours. We didn't have money, but we had the labor aspect.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you've grown your business, and it sounds like it's been very, very successful. And how many buildings do you have now?
At the main campus, we have 5 buildings, and then we have a downtown store in what we call Chapter 3 that's just 300 feet west of where we are.
Mm-hmm. And each location kind of specializes a little bit in different venues, perhaps, is the right word?
Right. You shouldn't think of it as 3 stores. It really is one store spread out over 3 locations. We reached a point where we had outgrown our spaces. The parking lot we needed more parking spaces. So that's when we started with downtown, and then just sort of expanded from there, because that worked out so well. Mm-hmm. It is funny once in a while when people come in, they really confuses them that there are 3 locations, because there aren't too many businesses that will split their business over 3 locations, but it was just something we had to do.
So how do you guys keep track of everything? Like, how do you know what inventory is? How do you do that? That's just like the most mind-boggling thing to me.
It's it's a tough one. I mean, basically we don't have a database. We never would be able to. We take in about 10,000 books a week. 10,000 books a week? Oh yeah, easily. And trying to enter all those books and then keep track of them would be difficult. But what I have are very good people who love what they do. So if a book comes in and we know where it would go, and a lot of times the employees will just say, oh, wait a minute, we got a copy of that yesterday, and boom, go grab things.
Okay.
We're more of a browsing bookstore. I mean, people come in all the time asking for particular books, and we're glad to help. But a lot of what people do is come in, park, you see them take their bags out of the car, and off they go, and then 20, 30 minutes, an hour later, they come back with 2 bags of books, and happy to buy a lot of books for not a lot of money.
Well, you have so many things there that make it kind of an afternoon event, if you don't mind me describing it that way.
No, not at all.
So you have coffee and there's cookies.
No, that ended with COVID.
Pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID we did, and unfortunately now it's economically just not possible anymore.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
Okay, but you have checkerboards, and is there a chess?
We have a chess set. We have plastic cars for the kids to ride around. There's a playground and a playhouse. There's a couple of goats, which are very popular with the kids. Unfortunately, we're down to just 1 cat, and the kids love the cat. We are a sort of destination retail type of thing, or entertainment retail. And why a child loves a bookstore, whether it's the plastic cars, the goats, whatever, if I can make a child believe that bookstore is the most wonderful thing in the world, that's for second of all, I've got them for life as a customer. That's the most, that's not the most important part. The most important part is we have kids who read, and that's so important.
Yeah, so tell me, you're saying that dispel the myth that children don't read or people don't read. Dispel that. Like, why is that so pertinent now?
I don't know why, but I hear it all the time. Again, it's always a small percentage of the population in the United States. It's never been a huge percentage, but most of our business now is kids, teens, and young adults that buy a lot of modern fiction. The key to the whole thing is people who read bring their kids who read. Unfortunately, people who don't read, unfortunately, their kids don't read. But every time I talk about kids, people always say, oh, kids don't read today. If any generation was going to be electronic, this is the generation where these kids were born with these phones in their hand, but yet they still want their books. The teens come down with big stacks of books, and they're skipping and smiling the whole way. And I mean, nothing makes me happier than to see that, or a little child getting a board book or something and just watching them smile. It's phenomenal.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, do you understand the importance of it as far as education and the trajectory for what will happen with them down the road? Oh,
I've always said that their life will just be so much easier. It's been proven that they're more empathetic because they read about other people's lives. They know more. I mean, today we have to pay attention. I mean, people need to read. They need to understand. They need to be able to have in-depth discussions about things. So that's the beauty of this place. People come in and talk about some of the most incredible things, and the interest that you see these people. They're fired up. It could be buttons, it could be circuses, it could be trains, and they know their thing. In fact, many years ago, a friend and I went out to buy some books. On the way back, we stopped at a restaurant, and for whatever reason, we were talking about the Allison P40 engine, and all the way across the restaurant, you see this man's ears perk up. He comes running over. He is the world's expert on Allison P40, and he starts talking and talking, which was great. I loved it. But I looked over at his wife, and his wife just looked at me, and she just went, thank you. Yeah. Because she probably heard many more things that she wanted to know about it. And I do understand that because, when you're really fired up about something and the other people are not, it's, and that was the beauty of the bookstore is people come and talk about books, and I don't know where else you do that. Yeah. It really is. That's what got me into it. It's like, wait a minute, people discuss books? Holy cow, Yeah.
So are there any book discussion groups that are kind of a spill-off or a trajectory from
Not that I know of, because we don't really get involved in other people's lives. In other words, I don't keep track of what people read. I don't, if somebody asks for books, we'll hold it for them and stuff like that. But we've had knitting groups come before and sit and knit and read. We get a lot of school groups in, which is really exciting. It's nice to see them. Yeah. In fact, my daughter in 6th grade went to school, got on a school bus, and came back to her own house for a field trip.
Oh,
so that's one of my best stories. I love that story.
Isn't that funny?
It was. And we said, do you want to go to school or do you just want to wait for them here? She said, no, I want to ride the bus and come back to my own house. Yeah.
That's great. So she wanted to be part of the experience. And what did the kids say after they got there and saw where she lived, basically?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, they all knew she was a big reader, and and a lot of them. She had a lot of good friends, so a lot of them had come to the store before.
Of course.
But I mean, I think of that. What a bragging that point that would have been when you were in the 6th grade. when you're trying to stand out in a very confusing world.
Yes, very confusing. So you said you don't keep track of what people read, which is so different than if you go to the library. And if you check out a book from the library, tell me about that.
Well, number one, we're not computerized in any way. And even when we write down what somebody had, it will just say 4 paperbacks, 3 hardcovers, or whatever. It will never say what anybody asked. So if we were ever subpoenaed for any kind of records, we have none.
Okay.
We don't keep emails. I can't even tell you who showed up in the store because it's no one's business. But no one should know what somebody's reading. Whatever they read is their business and their business only.
So it's the right to privacy. So that's really nice. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you are the person who's at the buying table, and we have a special name for that. Is it Ellis Island?
Ellis Island, sort of book immigration.
There you go.
Whether it rain, pour, all that type of stuff, we're out there in the cold. And
you are. I've seen you in the most inclement weather.
It's getting a little tough, right? So getting older. Last winter was tough. I'm usually pretty good with the cold. Last winter got to me a little bit.
You start to feel it. Oh, boy.
Yeah, more so than any other year. But I think about that once in a while. Why are we out here at 15, 20 degrees buying books. But you know, and the funny part is people will come in and call us down. They say, well, I can't believe you're out here buying books. It's like, well, we weren't until you showed up with books.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
But we don't mind. I mean, that's our business. We buy books so that we can sell books. And we buy about 10,000 books a week.
That's a lot of books.
It is. That's why we have 25 employees in the summertime. We call it full contact book selling. If you're still able to walk at the end of the day, you just didn't do it right. Because these people are walking thousands of steps, carrying tons of books. It really takes a special person to do that, and also have the ability and the need to organize, not just because it's their job. It's just part of what they are, is to organize things. You know?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, then I've been in and I've been looking for certain books of certain specific topics, and somebody's able to say, well, there's other books along this line that you should also read after you finish this one, which I really appreciate. So they're more than just booksellers; they're librarians to some extent, or well, what's a better word? I'm not even sure.
Oh, book consultants. You know, the nice thing is, though, the customers will do the same thing. We have wonderful discussions. People feel free to jump into discussions, and you can see their eagerness to discuss their subjects or their books, or just share the information. Because I've seen so many times somebody will come up with a stack of books, and one of the customers will say, oh, have you read this one? Have you read that one? And then you see that discussion, oh my God, that's my favorite book, and it's just great to see that sharing.
Well, and it's exciting, and it's enthusiastic. That's almost contagious, where you want to be like that, and you want to be in that world. So that's great. So what about banned books? What's your opinion on some of those?
It's I feel up to parents or up to individuals to, you know, read what they want to read. But you know, if you don't want your child to read something, just don't have them. But anything should be available to anybody who wants it.
It's a personal decision.
It is a personal decision, and a lot of things, and that's something that's so important in this country. You know, we do have rights, and you do have allowed personal decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. So, no, I agree with you. So it's just an interesting opportunity for people to kind of maybe acquire some of those books. And I know that there were books that my kids read when they were going through high school, and some of them are on the suggested banned list. But what I did as the parent was to read the book with them. So it gave them my adult perspective, and I had read it in high school as well. So I read it as an adult, and then had a dinner table conversation with them while we are you know, passing the spaghetti or whatever it is that we're having for dinner that night. So,
well, books are one thing, but do parents realize what's on their phones? Anything that's in a book isn't even 5% as damaging as I mean, everything is available on the phone today. So I find that far more dangerous than, you know, I mean, my daughter didn't get a phone until she was 12, and very limited. And in fact, my wife would go see a movie before we took my daughter, just to see. You know, I mean, that's part of parenting. That's part of just part of life.
Well, you want to bridge the path. You want to be that light and illuminate and help them go in the right direction, so that they become the kind of citizens and people that we want them to be.
Yeah, you want to be their example, not necessarily their role model, but certainly an example. Live the life you want your children to lead. You know.
Right. Follow their bliss, follow their dream.
Absolutely.
So you're not a chain, and so many things have fallen into place. You said serendipity has played a huge role in how things have happened. Can you give me any examples of that?
Well, the biggest example was the woman showing up, you know, and offering us the space. But we lucked out that they were able to carry our mortgage for a little while, so we could show a bank that we could pay a massive mortgage. And people have been just so helpful over the years. And just, I don't know, it's just odd that certain things have fallen into place. I can't really think of a particular example. Never the first time and never at the easiest moment. But eventually it seems to
that's interesting.
To work out. Yeah, nothing usually happens easy for me. It might happen, but I'm going to have to work for it, you know. But, you know, people, when they talk about luck, people aren't necessarily lucky. They're just ready to grab luck when it shows up. You know, luck doesn't happen to you. You have to grab it and run with it. And I think that's part of what we did. You know, when luck came along, we were ready to do the work it takes to make it happen.
So it does take a little bit of grit, I guess, to follow through and to be...
Oh, absolutely. There were times with this business, it was tough. It was, you know, when we first rented the house, we went bankrupt. Then when we bought you know, every time you build up a little bit, then you spend a whole bunch, and then you start to climb again and again. So that's happened many times over the year. Anybody who's ever been in business will know it's a rare occasion when everything just goes right from the start and builds up.
Right.
If you start a business, you first of all don't expect to make money for a couple of years, and second of all, it's going to be hard.
Right. It's going to test your willpower, I think,
Absolutely.
and make you really appreciate it when you get to that level of success.
Yep.
So another piece of advice that you said is you don't spend money you don't have when you first open a business, and you need to have a desire or a dream. And anything more along that line?
As I told you, when we started, we had no money at all, but we were willing to work very hard. But it really does take, I mean, you can tell the difference between a business that was created simply because they thought it was a niche or something like that, and someone who just did it because they love it. There's not enough money in the book business. It's a great business, but nobody makes a lot of money in it. So anybody who thinks that we're going to start a book business to make a lot of money is crazy. I mean, Caldor's bought Borders thinking they were going to take it into this national chain, and they lost their shirt on it. There just isn't much money in it, but it's the most wonderful business to be in. So I'm glad to take care of it that way.
Interesting. So have you ever had authors come and do author talks or presentations, or?
We did for a while. We didn't draw much of a crowd, so we stopped it. We did it for about 2 years. We even put out a full meal, and on a good day we might get 30 or 35 people, and other times it was 2 or 3. In fact, there were 3 people that would always show up, and if they went on vacation, I canceled any events because they were the 3 people I know would automatically show up. I knew they were going to be there because there's nothing more embarrassing than to throw a party and no one shows up.
Exactly. Yep. It's not fun. So what is the most read or best part of the Book Barn? Like the part the books that are mostly used and checked out, and is it the travel section or the fiction or?
Modern fiction is very popular right now. The things that I can never find enough copies are mushroom guides, blacksmithing, beekeeping. So the farming, rural living thing is really popular right now. Of course, Colleen Hoover is outselling Charles Dickens 200 to 1. But a lot of good modern fiction is what we're selling, and teen books is enormous. There's a lot of really wonderful teen series, and a lot of adults read them also. They finally figured out that the teens needed a market. My daughter read for the longest time, but she got to a point she was reading adult level, but was not ready for adult content, and there was almost nothing there for them.
Oh, interesting.
And now there is. There's a lot of things out there, and like I say, a lot of adults read them too.
Young adults.
Yeah.
Well, they're easy reads, and the vocabulary is.
Some of it is really in depth or whatever. I mean, anywhere from the Harry Potter party, because we did 3 Harry Potter parties, and the last one especially, we had 200 people in my backyard. And I'm handing these books to these kids at midnight, and the books are bigger than the kids. And watching these kids with their arms around this book, Mom, can I read it on the way home?
Oh,
in
boy.
fact, the first party, we had to kick people out at 4 o'clock in the morning because everybody was just sitting all over the property reading the next Harry Potter. And it's like, guys, go home. We have to be up, and we have to open in 5 or 6 hours. So it's time to go.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have to give you credit too, because you really do hire some of the most incredible staff persons, and how able they are to talk about different sections and things in books. So that's really amazing.
Well, that's one of the signs of our success, is the quality of people that want to work there. It really is. I'm so very proud of, because high quality people want to work there. Chuck has been with me 34 years. Glenn has been with us almost 20 years. Between the 3 of us, we've been in the book business for about 135 years. And T, I mean, there's just so many people to name. Like I said, we have about 25 employees, and every year we get many more applications than we could ever fill. I mean, it's a very labor-intensive business, but it can't go on forever. Our payroll's high enough already.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. So I'm a speech pathologist by training, so I use a lot of books as far as my remediation techniques, because there's a lot of opportunity for repeating it, and for the vocabulary, and for the kids to kind of get their hands on the book, like the board books or the new pop books, the books that you touch the different. So. I can't say enough for how important books are as far as remediation or intervention and increasing vocabulary and concepts. And you've already spoken to that a little bit, but I just think to underscore the importance of that as far as intervention.
Well, a lot of people are picking up Calvin and Hobbes. It's one of the most popular books we have. And using it as like an early reader. And the beauty of Calvin and Hobbes is there's something there for kids and there's something there for adults.
Right.
I mean, I think it's some of the most brilliant stuff done. It's wonderful. I mean, if I get a copy in, I end up spending, when I really should be working, I just keep finding some of those old jokes that I love so much.
Well, they're funny. They're funny
They
at
are.
different levels. And
Yep.
the kids don't necessarily understand. Or
Yeah, the philosophical aspects, but it's still, he has what it is to be a child. He
Yeah.
understands, hoping the school blows up, all the different things he did,
Yep.
he gets the whole life. And then when you grow older, you see the philosophy involved. You see the deep questions, as he's going down the hill, what life is all about. It's really quite remarkable. But I also like the fact that he realized when that he was done. At a certain point, he had said everything had to said, and he stopped.
Right.
It didn't go on and on like some of the other ones do. You do know need to know when you have nothing left to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's really important.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what advice would you give to somebody who is interested in becoming an entrepreneur or following their dream, following their bliss? What would you say? What should they do?
Well, the funniest thing I always hear is, I'd love to have my own business because I can set my own hours. And that is the quickest way to come to an end.
Yep.
There's several statements that I always go by. One of it is you're in business by permission of your customers. If you don't have your customers, you're not a business. You're just a stockroom or whatever. And the other thing is, if you want to be successful in business, work half a day. Either the first 12 hours or the second 12 hours, just do half a day. And that's true. I mean, I've been out at 10 o'clock at night spreading wood chips in the dark, thinks it looks wonderful, and then you get up in the morning and it looks like it looks crazy. It's like, God, it looked good last night when we went to bed.
Yeah.
It
Reminds me of a story that we had as a kid. My brother was cutting the hedges after dark.
Yeah. Oh, I
my next door neighbor was ready to call the police, and we looked in the morning, and my mom was like,
It must have been dreadful. Oh my God, I can imagine. But you're just trying to get things done.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the time I had to do it. So that's when we did it. Yeah.
So it takes a lot of hard work. It takes tenacity.
Absolutely. You just stick with it, type of thing. It is. There are times where it's going to be depressing. It's going to be beat down. It's going to be. But if it's in your heart, it can work. I mean, not always, but I mean, you have to have at least that. If you just want to do your 8 hours a day and have weekends off and stuff like that. I haven't had weekends off forever. I can't tell you how many times we've been out on a Friday night or a July 4th picking up books or whatever, and I'm thinking, okay, everybody else is doing their thing. I know where I'm going to be. Yeah. But I don't regret it. Like I said, it's been 35 years now, and I got my son through college. I got my daughter through college. We own the property. I have a high school diploma, so I'm not sure what else I would do. In fact, speaking of high school, my English teacher said of all the students she ever had, I'd be the last one she'd pick to run a bookstore. And that was Mrs. Childs from Waterford, a wonderful teacher. But she was right. At that time, when I was in high school, I had no idea why I was there.
Oh, really?
I just got my way through it. That's just survived it, type of thing.
So if you could turn the wheels back, would you have done something differently, or would you? I
would have hoped to start it earlier. I was 30, I believe, when we started, or 31, but I didn't know what I wanted to do until then. I had done a lot of things, and after running the pizza house, I realized I enjoyed business. But the food industry is as bad as the bookstore. The food industry is just tough work. It is.
Yeah, I would think so.
It's a young man's job. I mean, when you're doing the cooking and it's a lot. At this age, I couldn't do it. But whereas a bookseller, I can continue to hire people because there's no real retirement for me. I'll just hope to take longer vacations and travel more. But I will, I will continue doing it. I mean, unless somebody wants to pay me $10 million where I never have to work again. If I have to work, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. Well, and, work should be fun at some level. And
There's always a day where you say, geez, I really don't feel like working today.
Of course.
But if you get to the point when I used to work at EB, Sunday afternoon my stomach would start to roll, and the thought of going into work.
Anticipation of Monday.
And that is no way to live. No. Not when you're living for the weekend or living for, oh my God, it's a 4-day weekend. Holy,
Right. Yeah.
I don't want that. I do enjoy vacations and stuff like that, but I don't mind going back to work also.
Of course. Well, I think you have the kind of business that when you get to work, you enjoy your customers and you enjoy the interaction and you enjoy seeing what's coming in.
And I enjoy the people that work for me. It's nice that we all get along. As Glenn has said before, he goes, it's rare. I work with these people. I would socialize with the people. I like these people, and we're everybody takes care of each other. If somebody needs a day off, people will switch. If somebody's having a down day, everybody will pick up and help them out or whatever. It's like, look, you're having a rough day. You go run the register where you don't have to be running around, your knee hurts or whatever. And other people just jump in, and you don't see that too often.
No.
So we really do have a good family atmosphere, and And that's what I always tell people: if you know, if you're going to work here, you've got to get along with everybody. Otherwise, we don't need issues. We don't need no. It's tough physical work, but if everybody does their part, it goes by.
That's great.
Yep.
That's really great. So we're coming up on the end of our half hour. So is there anything else that you would like to share? Another little story, little anecdote, pearl of wisdom, anything that you would like for people to know as far as taking away your locations? You have one on Main Street, down by the movie theater or the theater center that's called now. And then you've got on West Main Street, you've next to the East Coast Taco, right? You have the 2 locations down there.
Right.
Anything else we should know? You do a discount during January, February, or January?
Well, we used to do it in the wintertime, but now we do it October. I believe it usually starts Columbus Day weekend.
Okay.
And we do 9 days, 30% off. It's the first day is the craziest day of the thing.
Sure.
I have to have 5 people just into direct traffic.
Yep.
I know my neighbors aren't happy with me because we're parked all the way down the road, but we only do it once a year. We used to do it in the winter, between standing out in the cold for so long, and several times we got snowed out, and you can't really reschedule that.
Right.
And at that time, we really needed the cash flow in the wintertime, and now we're in a little bit better financial position.
So 30% off in October.
Yep.
Okay, that's great.
But that's the only sale we do, because our prices are very reasonable to begin with. Yeah.
And you give a teacher's discount.
Teacher's discount. Oh
really
my God,
nice.
they're teaching my customers. If no one reads, I'm done.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's
so we
very
love
generous.
to see teachers come in. Yeah. And you know, they work hard, and a lot of times they're spending their own money when they're buying books for.
Absolutely.
So anything we can do to help them. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate that, and I've used that teacher discount, so I appreciate
Good.
that. Yeah. So, all right. Well, you've been a marvelous guest, and I've enjoyed having you come and visit. So, just one other thing I wanted to let you know: my husband started a men's book reading group, and they meet at the library once a month, the last Wednesday of the month. So maybe we could put in a plug for that and get some people out there.
Or send me some flyers. We can put those up, because we want to support anything that has to do with reading. It's not just about money making. This is about the importance of reading. And I don't care if you start reading at 95 or I mean, my sister went through high school and really was illiterate when she came out of high school.
Isn't that crazy?
Started out with Harlequin romances, then lose my mind here. Doesn't matter, you know. And then now she's in reading groups and stuff like that.
Good
she may
for
never
her.
read Milton or Joyce, and
doesn't matter.
of course I never probably will either. But it's the enjoyment, you know. I mean, so many people think reading is chewing your way through the Scarlet Letter or Ethan Frome. That's not reading. Find a book that you love, and it's an experience you'll never lose. I mean, there's nothing better in the middle of a good book. I love it. I'm late for work. I'm a little sleeping, not sleeping as well, because you're just going to read one more chapter. You know?
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much, Randy. You've been an amazing guest.
Thank you. I'm glad you called us and wanted to do this.
Thank you very much. So, stories worth telling. Here we are.
Thank you.